Okay, hello everyone. Thank you all for coming. Let's continue with Master YongHua's teaching during the Chanqi.
于是乎，就托这个鸠摩罗什法师向他来讲，请他到宫中里边呢去给说法。
So he asked Dharma Master Kumarajiva to invite him to the palace to speak Dharma.
鸠摩罗什法师和这位觉贤法师商量了很多次。
Dharma Master Kumarajiva discussed this with Dharma Master Juexian many times.
以后得到这位觉贤法师应许了，就到这个宫里边呢去给说法。
Later, Dharma Master Juexian agreed. Then he went to the palace to speak Dharma.
在说法的时候，这个鸠摩罗什法师就请法，就请问法。他请问什么法呢？
When he was speaking Dharma, Dharma Master Kumarajiva would request Dharma. Which Dharma did he request?
他就请问法。请问这个法怎么样才能空？用什么方法才能空这个法？
He requested Dharma and asked, how can this Dharma be empty? What method can be used to empty this Dharma? 这位觉贤法师答复他就说了，说这个众微成色，这个 Dharma Master Juexian answered him, said this, multitudes of dusts form form.
一众微尘呢聚到一起，就有个色相。色
meaning multitudes of dusts melded together, then there is form. Form doesn't have self-nature.
无自性，可是虽然有色相，但是它没有自性。
But despite the mark of form, it doesn't have self-nature. So this form,
所以这个色就在这个色上，就是当体即空，在这个色的本体就是空。答复这个鸠摩罗什法师。
this form is, this substance is emptiness. This form's original substance is emptiness. He answered Dharma Master Kumarajiva.
鸠摩罗什法师知道大家还没明白这个道理，于是乎就又问： 为什么呢？
Dharma Master Kumarajiva knew the audience still didn't understand this principle. Thus, he asked again. What did he ask?
说这个以机为来破这个色，那么在这个一个微尘这个时候是怎么样子呢？
He asked to use a mode to break this form. Then, at the moment of the mode, how is it like?
这个绞刑法师，这一般的法师，你呀，认为把这个一个微尘也要破了，这才算空。
Dharma Master Jue said, ordinary Dharma Masters believe breaks through one mode as well, then this counts as emptiness.
把这一粒微尘也破了，这才算空。他说我啊，想不是这样，我想不需要破这一粒微尘呢，也就是空。
To break through this one mode as well, then this counts as emptiness. He said, I don't think it is like this. I think without breaking through this one mode is also emptiness.
我们这个一般人呢还没明白这个九摩罗什法师。九摩罗什法师又问，说是。
Then ordinary people still didn't understand. Dharma Master Kumarajiva asked again. He asked,
原来这个一微是常吗？这个一微啊，它是一个恒常不变的吗？小仙法师又答复他说。
Then, is this one mode permanent? This one mode, is it permanent without change? Dharma Master Jue answered him. He said,
一为故，众为空。一个这个微尘呢？ 即为众多的微尘，所以这个一个微尘呢是空的。
Because one mode is empty, so multitudes of modes are empty. One mode accumulates into multitudes of modes, so this one mode is empty.
没有了。以众为空，故意为空。这个意为啊，一个一为它也是空。
Because one mode is empty, so multitudes of modes are empty. this one mode, even one mode, is empty.
当时一般的法师就说这个教贤法师讲的不对，他这个讲法或者有。
At that time, ordinary Dharma masters said Dharma Master Jue was wrong, the way he said it.
当时有个宝云法师给翻译出这两句话，翻译的也不或者。
At that time, Dharma Master Bao Yun translated these two sentences. His translation was not
没有翻译的太清楚这个意思。一般人呢，就说是这个教贤法师就是认为这个意味呀，就是长了。
or didn't translate the meaning clearly. Ordinary people said, this Dharma Master Jue believes this one mode is permanence.
这是长了，才解释。其实呢，这不是，就是
is permanence. Actually, his explanation was not like that.
因为单单的一粒微尘，这个是个色相啊，但是色无自性，所以是空了。记句
Because just one mode, this mark of form, but form has no self-nature, thus it is empty.
众多的微尘在一起，虽然是色，但是这个色是众多的微尘呢聚集而成的，所以这你要把它分析看，也还是空的。
Accumulate lots of modes together, although it is form, but this form is made by lots of modes accumulating together. So, if you separate them, it is still empty.
然后有一天呢，这些个当时一些个中国法师就难问，想这个这个。
It's okay. Okay, let's backtrack. Did you have a question, right? Is it way past it?
Yeah, this one. I feel the answer is not really like answering the question of like explaining how this one mode is not permanent. I feel the answer. I can't connect
The answer in Chinese or translation? The two things going on here. The translation and then the actual Chinese itself.
Oh, I did not pay attention to the translation, the Chinese.
Okay, let's go back to this because I didn't know what they're talking about. Okay, so but it is important. This is the standard scholarly talk, especially because this comes from the Buddhist sutras. So it's good to go through it, okay? So that in the future, some smart Alex gonna come to you and start debating you and throw names, throw words at you, and you don't know what they're talking about, okay? So it's worthwhile to go through all this terminology, all this jargon, okay? So basically, the emperor heard about Venerable Jue and said he's a big part of the translation work, the translation group. So he asked Kumara Jiva to bring him to the palace to speak Dharma for them. Okay. First thing in my mind is, it seems to be a tradition for Chinese emperors and empresses to bring the well-known, the renowned monks to the palace to speak Dharma for them. Right? And it seems to be a Chinese tradition, but one can't help but wonder, why would they do that? Huh? What do you think? Why would an emperor say, I imagine an emperor has better things to do, like drinking and composing poetry and talking to his concubines and so forth. But why would he spend time listening to the Dharma? Oh, excuse me. Some people are touchy. Huh? Seriously. Why would a king or emperor want to listen to the Dharma? Huh? Why? Who are they trying to impress? Are they trying to impress someone? Billy, go ahead.
Master, I think it's hard to get a king. He's the king of everyone's, but it's hard to get a king to listen to Dharma because it takes a lot of blessings to listen to Buddha's Dharma. Like Sakyamuni Buddha, when I remember, Master, you were saying Sakyamuni Buddha, that he was cultivating up in the mountain that for 6 years, and the king and everybody have their soldiers come up and in the mountain and see Sakyamuni Buddha. And those days that it's a harsh day for the kings to search, and which is he went up to the mountain and he saw Sakyamuni Buddha, and he started doing something like a bad thing to it. So when Sakyamuni Buddha, I become a Buddha, the first thing I have to look for the king is you. I remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it takes a lot of blessing for the king to listen to Buddha's Dharma talk.
Yes, absolutely. Over there. Green.
질문 아니고 저도 코멘트인데 왕이 큰 스님을 모시고 법문을 듣는 이유는 부처님의 불법은 널리 중생을 위하는 거고 그 왕은 그 국가를 통치하는 국민들을 위해 하기 때문에 불법을 듣는 것은 당연하다고 생각합니다.
Master, as a king, I think it's important to have a teacher, especially having a monk, and in a way they're spreading Dharma and listening to the Dharma. And this benefits for the country, and also overall will be a necessary thing to do as a king.
Okay, very good. Anyone else? Okay, the simple reason that the kings and emperors want to invite the Dharma masters over to the palace to speak Dharma to them is, number one, to verify this Dharma master is cool. He has wisdom. Okay? Because people keep on talking about how great he is, how much wisdom it is. He wants to hear himself the words of wisdom from the Dharma master. That's very practical. Okay? Another thing on top of it is that they're hoping that the time is well spent, that they can hear something that they can use, right? Because they definitely do not want to waste their time. Agree? So that's why it's a rather difficult thing to do, because the kings and queens and emperors would not cross their legs like you. They probably sit listening to the Dharma in the chairs or whatever, right? And ask them to cross their legs would not be possible. You see that? So it's a different environment altogether. But you have to realize the constraints here. That is, they are not looking for instructions on cultivation like you do. Okay? You're here because you want to understand more, and in particular, in the one aspect of what we do is we give you instructions. Okay? This is what you are interested in. Am I correct? Okay, just in case. Wrong tempo. Okay, if you want theory, if you want things, if you want like a lot of debates and discussions and so forth, theories, this is not the best place because we don't focus on the theories. You can go to universities, you get a much more theories and a lot of concepts than we do. Okay, so you see, I'm trying to point out to you that these emperors look for certain thing. Okay, to make it worth a while. So if you speak to them about things that are not useful to them, they say, "Okay, thank you. I have some national issues I need to address. I talk to you later. You, mother, you can listen, continue to listen. I'll be right back," and so forth. Okay, or they ask their chancellor and give them a call on the cell phone and say, "Oh, excuse me, mom, I need to go." You know, that kind of thing. So their attention, you need to capture their attention. Otherwise, they will not stay with you. So far, so good. Okay, so I'm positioning for you. I'm trying to give you the big picture of why people do this. And typically, the emperors and kings, if they're impressed by you, they keep coming back and so forth. But the better kings and queens and emperors would be looking for something useful for them to use, meaning some suggestions how to solve their problems, or how to rule better, how to increase their treasuries, how to take care of the current drought in California, okay, the existing pandemic, and so forth. You don't just give them theories and expect them to sit there and debate with you. They're looking for something practical. Okay, my point being that if kings and queens are like that, you agree with that or not? I'm not a king and queen, so I ask for your forgiveness, especially the presidents and kings and queens, although a lot of you. Okay, but that's my assumption is that your time is very precious. You want something that's useful to you. Okay. When you think about it, aren't we treating you just like kings and queens as well? Ching! Because we hate for you to waste your time. Listening to things that you debate, and then what? You smart? That's it? You're the smart one. You're so eloquent. And then what? You're still poor. You're still angry. You're still so unpleasant to be with. And your wife wants to run away from you. Huh? So what's the point of doing this? You see? So if kings and queens are like that, seriously, why shouldn't we? Huh? Okay. My point is that Kumarajiva, I'm not impressed. He asked the wrong questions. So far, so good. He may be a great monk, eminent monk, and so on, but he doesn't know how to serve his king and queens. Okay, so he asked something about emptiness and so forth, and clearly the king and queens couldn't care less. Okay, because they never related to him why the emptiness is important. right? What's the point of talking about emptiness? Emptiness is a concept. So the dust, motes, and form and so forth, they're empty. And then what? What does it do for me? That's how different we are. Okay? I want you to understand that. You Sunims, you monks and nuns, understand that we don't want to waste people's time. They want to learn about these concepts. They can read it themselves, take a course at the university, go to other temples, learn about it. Okay? So far, so good. However, it does not excuse us from understanding these concepts. We need to understand these concepts because that's what eventually what this is all about. But when we teach people, we need to be adaptable to what they're looking for. We can't keep on talking about theory. Then we're no different from a scholar, from a person who regurgitates the scriptures. So far, so good? So it sounds nice, it sounds good, it sounds, sounds pretty, looks pretty, but it's absolutely not much use to you. Because you're depressed. Yes? Imagine, I don't know any of you depressed. No? No one? Okay. Not today, huh? Not today. Everyone is in a very good mood. Normally you are, but not today. And someone who's depressed, like the concubine is about to be put into the cold room, by the king. He said, I am busy now, I put you to the cold palace, the Chinese have saying, the cold palace, meaning that they put the concubine or the queen into a separate building, and then so far from the king's quarters that he hardly ever goes over there because it's just too far. It's still within the palace compound, but just too far. Okay? So it's called cold palace. Am I correct, Chinese people? Huh? Cold palace. So that's where all the reject concubines go. So far, so good? Huh, okay. See, I'm talking about things that interest some of you. All right. So, Kumarajiva. Okay? Kumarajiva, Venerable Kumarajiva, a great Chinese monk. Okay? And this is how we learn the Dharma. You have to give credit where credit is due. But we need to look at from our vantage point, what is it that we can use out of this? Okay? So Kumarajiva brought the young monk over, the third stage Arhat over, and then taught them through the procedure how to request Dharma by asking a question. Okay, this is slightly different from the way we request the Dharma here in our temple that is instituted by the late great master YongHua. Okay, it's a different kind of thing. You see the difference between his request Dharma versus our Dharma request is quite significant, don't you think? Okay, our Dharma request is so much more, has much more depth. Yes? His requesting a Dharma is to impress the king and the queens. Right? It seems to be the intention is that, throw things that out here that shows the depth of our wisdom. Okay? So, to me, Kumarajiva's level is probably not very high. He may be very skilled, okay, in translation and has spiritual power and so forth, but his ability in taking advantage of this situation to teach the emperor and the king and the queens, okay, he missed out on that opportunity, if you will. Okay? So far, so good? Yes, Red.
Thank you, Master. Listening to your point, my takeaway is that Kumarativa's intention was to impress the king, but totally whiffed on understanding his audience. If I were to try and guess, the significance of a mote or a very tiny substance doesn't really speak to a king who probably has like actual real problems to deal with. And some of the best advice I think I've received here at Temple is learn what your boss's problems are and then solve them for him or her. I would think a better approach to...
Wow, such wisdom.
It didn't... yes, I agree. It's helped me a great deal. I would imagine it would be more effective to learn what the king or the emperor's problems were and speak Dharma to a topic like that. Like maybe grains of rice would be more applicable if he needs to feed his people.
Absolutely. Very good. Anyone else? Precisely. That's the whole point. Okay. But anyway, let's go through this because what's going on here between them, the interchanges are textbook materials. This nothing wrong. Okay, it's right. Okay, but from our vantage points, it seems to be a missed opportunity, you will. Okay, and that's stop trying to impress people. Okay, that instead let's focus on trying how to benefit them. Overall, they will be a lot more impressed if they get more benefits out of it than just concepts, words, right? Okay, so Kumarajiva asked a question. 请问 here is asked. It is not. So the request, the Dharma requests, asks for clarifications or instructions on some Buddhist concepts. So far, so good. Okay? And he says, let's talk about the emptiness of a Dharma. Okay? Fundamental Buddhist concept. Only in Buddhism you have this concept. So, reasonable. Okay? You're still not teaching him the proper thing? Okay, very good. Okay, he got it. Next time, teach him to kiss it. Thank you. Good job. So. All right. Thank you, JMT, for waiting. Go ahead.
Hello.
We can hear you.
I feel the king will probably have a lot of problems with a lot of concubines. The real, actual problems. But then it will be very difficult to talk about it in front of people. I think only a wise teacher can give advice without having to lose the face for the king.
Okay.
So maybe the king knew that only the real wise teacher can give practical solutions to his problems with a lot of concubines and family problems and health problems and so on.
Why are you so obsessed with concubine problems? As a king, I imagine it's things like feeding the people, education, economy, yeah.
I imagine the king have actual, real, practical problem that's been brought to his hands every single day by his family. It's more real.
Okay, that's reasonable. Okay, Q&A.
I think the concept of emptiness have been explained throughout the country the way similar to Venerable Xie Giác Hiền, and it was wrong. So Kumarajiva take this opportunity to correct him and also tell him that he doesn't know much, so he better shut up.
There's a side of that as well. Absolutely. Let's go through this and let me explain to you where I'm leading you. Okay, because there's lots of points here. Okay, he says, okay, how can this Dharma be empty? Okay, and this Dharma here refers to something can be empty. Okay, how can something be empty? And what is a method we can use to empty this particular thing? Okay, and so the context is pretty good. Okay, because emptiness is the fundamental, very important concept in Buddhism. Okay, so it's important to learn about that and hear about that. So that's why I think it's a good idea to go through this regardless. Okay. Next, so Jie Xian answered. He says, multitude of fine dust. This is where the translation is does not understand the context. This shows that you don't understand this concept, this Buddhist concepts. That's why when the Chinese wei, 中wei here is wei chen, is no wei. Okay, so the multitude of subtle dust. Okay. Forms make up the forms. Okay, so here it should be a multitude of fine dust. So weight here is fine. So very, very minute particles, if you will. That again is standard textbook Buddhism. Okay, you should know that. So that when people throw these things at you, you know what they're referring to. So far, so good. Okay, next, 103. And feel free to stop me, Ray, if you find a section where you have a problem. So the Venerable Jie Xian says, so these fine, minute things, okay, they gather to form. Okay? So therefore, this form here, because it's made up of all the things, it does not exist by himself. That's what the Chinese says, no self-nature. So far, so good. It used to bother me so much. It should bother you when you say it doesn't have the self-nature. Okay? It used to bother me so much because what does it mean? It doesn't have a self-nature. Okay? This is a very precise and scholarly Buddhist way of expressing that, this thing here, what you see here, is actually made up of other things. So it's not really itself. Okay? You call this thing here as me, for example. Okay? Actually, it's no me. Actually, me here, it consists of eyes, ears, nose, muscles, skin, and a lot of things I don't want. Okay? So that's the me. So the me has no self-nature. The self has no self-nature. That's all it means. Okay? To put it very plainly, okay? So he says, the answer is that how they empty this Dharma, his thing here, this thing here, whatever thing it is. Okay, he says, this thing here, the form, he chose to use the aspect of this thing here that has a form. Okay, so this clearly to us professionals, scholars, okay, clearly tells me, experienced professionals, spiritual monks, clearly tells me that this Juexian here is truly a third stage arhat. He's still stuck on this form, which makes sense. That's the weakness of third stage arhats. They have these confusions. They cannot resolve themselves. Okay? And that shows in his answer here. Okay? So, double disappointment for me because Juexian shouldn't be translating sutras either, to me. Okay? Too low. Okay? Maybe good for the Chinese. I think it should be better for us. We should raise the standards a little bit more. Okay? Because it's right here, clearly indicates to you, proves to you that this guy is too limited to have a big voice in how the Dharma is translated from Sanskrit into Chinese. And maybe he has the earlier point from San Jose is that maybe that Kumarajiva is trying to teach Juexian. Could be. Okay, I don't know. Okay, but so this Juexian here use example of a form. A thing you can see. A form is the body, whatever you can see. Okay, that you can observe, you can describe, and that's solid, that has a form. Okay, he uses that to explain the concept of emptiness. Okay, so it shows this. He proves that Juexian's limitations in his understanding of emptiness. All right? So it says form doesn't have self-nature. Okay. Again, I want you to go through this so that in the future, there's some smart Alex will come to you and say, when you teach Chana and you try to explain the Dharma and say, explain emptiness to me. And and you go through this and say, you don't know what you're talking about. You're just stuck on form. You're stuck on smell. You're just stuck on, and so forth. Okay. All right, next. So, despite the appearance, the mark here, okay, mark is another jargon, Buddhist jargon. Don't be scared by this. A mark is basically something that can be observed, some characteristics that can be observed, whether through a smell, whether through a color, whether through whatever that you can describe. Okay, that's a mark. Right? So the form is a mark. Okay, you can describe the form. Therefore, even you have a form, even you have the characteristics of a form, it doesn't have self-nature because it's made up of other things. So it's not really exists by itself. You take the other things away, it disappears. Okay? So it's comprised of other things. Therefore, it doesn't have a self-nature. Okay? Again, jargon. You shouldn't let this bother you. Okay? It bothered the heck bothered the heck out of me for several years. Okay? And because the way the Chinese explain it is just too scholarly. Next. This form here. The substance is emptiness. So he says, as he says, because this form here is made up of other things, you can see that this thing here is not real. Therefore, the Buddhist concept is called emptiness. Okay? It's empty. It's an illusion. It's not real. Same thing, the self you observe, the hairdo, the fingernails, the perfume, okay? All those are not the self. All those amalgamated, okay, combined together, make up something you call your self-concept of the self. So the concept of self is actually something that's an illusion. It doesn't exist by itself. Therefore, the self is empty. So far, so good? That's the same logic. Does anyone have a problem with this? I want you to understand this. The Buddhist logic is very simple. Don't let it scare you. All these jargons and so forth. Yeah, the old monk.
A Di Đà Phật. Bởi vì tất cả chúng ta đó đều chấp cái gì mình có, cá nhân mình là ta, là người, đây là nhà tôi, đây là xe tôi, đây là vợ tôi. Thì mấy cái bên Đại Thừa đó thì đưa ra là các pháp đều không tướng như thầy quý vị mới nói đó. Không có thật, nó nhiều nhân duyên. Chẳng hạn như hai vợ chồng lấy nhau thì nhân duyên đời trước như thế nào đó, thề nguyện gì đó, nợ hay là ân gì đó, bây giờ gặp nhau thì thành một cái gia đình, hai người, hai vợ chồng, thành cái form là hai vợ chồng. Bây giờ hết form, hết cái duyên rồi thì người vợ chết, hoặc là người chồng chết, hoặc là ly dị. Thì để mình biết các pháp đều không như vậy, mình không có chấp, để mình không có đau khổ. Bên Tiểu Thừa thì nó nói là vô thường, các pháp là vô thường, thì cũng đi đến cái phá cái chấp đó thôi. Bởi vì Kinh Kim Cang cũng nói là không ngã, không nhân. Kinh Bát Nhã nói là ngũ uẩn dây không. Thân vật lý của mình và cái thân tâm thần của mình đó, hai cái đó hợp lại, không phải là mình mà do cái nghiệp báo của mình. Bên Thiền Tông cũng nói như vậy. Để cho mình đừng có đau khổ, đừng có chấp cái đó là thường. Cái duyên nó hết thì nó đi, duyên nó còn đủ thì nó kết hợp lại. Đó là pháp vô thường. Thì khi con nhập thất 27 ngày ở bên Quy Sơn Tự đó, cách đây 2 năm á, thì ngày thứ 17 sáng con đói quá mà mệt quá rồi. Thì vừa chống tay đứng lên để mà đi xuống với tầng dưới, thì nhìn ra cửa sổ, thấy tất cả mọi vật này như vậy đó. Từ hạt cát trên cái núi, từ ngọn cỏ bên kia đường đến lá cây, đều là một đống tập hợp lại cùng một màu xanh, cùng một màu trắng, và cả cái núi đều là một đống vậy thôi. Không có thật chắc như mình tưởng xưa nay các bậc cái núi chắc là nó cứng lắm, nó không thể nào destroy được. Mà nhìn nó từ cái núi cho đến hạt cát bên kia đường đều như vậy hết, mà nó xảy ra rất là nhanh trong 1 hay 2 second thôi. Thì lúc đó con thấy con người con nó lạ lắm, rất là nó phấn chấn mà nó vui lắm. Con mới bò lại cái hộp sơn mài con đựng cái sâu xá lợi của con đó. Thì lập tức con nhận được một ngôi xá lợi con còn nửa hột tiêu đó, và vàng rồng luôn. Thì con nghĩ là chư Phật muốn dạy cho con thấy các pháp không tự tướng mà nó tập hợp như mình mới nói đó. Nó rõ ràng vậy. Để phá cái chấp của mình, cố chấp là mọi thứ là thiệt. Đây là cái nhà tôi, đây là xe tôi, đây là vợ tôi. Đâu có cái gì thiệt đâu. Nó hết nhân duyên rồi nó rã ra, nó đi, nó form một cái form khác. Con xin hết.
Master, so we all have the illusion that we attach to whatever we have. So we say like, this is my body, this is my house, this is my car, this is my wife. But in the Mahayana, we learn that all the Dharma has no mark, is not real. Everything is arise from the nhân duyên, the condition. So, for example, the two person get to know each other and get married, they become husband and wife. It's because they have the affinity. Either one person is owing the other person or paying the debt. So when they get together, the form is that they become husband and wife. But when the condition is gone, then it will manifest in a form that one person die or they will get divorced. So we need to understand it so that there will be no more suffering, and then we understand that nothing is permanent and we should not attach to anything. That's why in the Vajra Sutra, saying that like there is no self, no condition or whatsoever, or the Prajna, the Heart Sutra say that the five skandha is empty. So we need to understand and not to attach to this body. And then, so when last time when I was doing 27 days fasting at Way Mountain Temple, to the 7th day, I was so hungry, so tired and exhausted. I couldn't stand on myself, but then I have to lean against the table. And then when I looked through over to the window, I saw that everything from the sand to the mountain, to the grass, to the leaves, everything, I understand that everything is just a combination that form those things that I can see. And it happened very, very quick, within like 1 or 2 seconds. And then suddenly I feel like it's an overwhelmed joy inside me. And then I reach over to the box that I have the Sharira. I found out inside I have a small baby Sharira golden that is as big as the black pepper. And I understand that the Buddha wants to teach me that the Dharma has no self nature. So that's why I should not attach to anything. Everything is not real. So everything is based on the condition. When there's no condition, it's go back to empty.
YouTube question.
Trin asks, I don't see why it's not real just because it is made up of something else. It feels like a philosophical argument depending on how you define real.
It's not real in the sense that it's an entity by itself. When you made up of something else, you cannot say that I'm the pure thoroughbred. You cannot be any mixture in there. Okay? That's all it means. YouTube.
Brady asks, aren't dust motes form and at the same time formless?
How can a form be formless? You call it form already. You can't speak with both sides of the mouth. Form formless, form formless, form formless. Doesn't work. Okay, anyone else? You have to take a stand, Brady. You have to tell me, it's a form, or it's not a form. You cannot say it's form, both a form and not a form. You cannot tell me that yet, because I don't believe you. Some other people I might believe, but not you. Okay? Just go through the logic. And this is an important logic that you should be exposed to so that you know this is the standard line of response when you try to explain to people that form is empty and so forth. This is the logic, the rationale they use, okay? And this is the language, the jargon they use. The substance is emptiness. It doesn't have a self nature. All those things, okay? You need to understand. You need to be exposed to the jargon, okay? However, so that the scholars and the bookworms cannot throw you off. All right? However, the bookworm and scholars have no idea what they're talking about. The same thing I told Brady, you cannot tell me it's a form, and there's form and no formless, because you don't know it. You don't know, you only use words. You don't know what it is. Okay? So that's where we at right now. Okay? Bear with me, and eventually there's a point in all this. But it takes time. I need time to help you, expose you to the jargon, okay, which I never paid attention to previously, because you can become enlightened without having to worry about this jargon. All right? Many of you will say, how come I never heard of this before? I rest my case. You can become enlightened, you become a fourth stage arhat, you don't have to know about any dust motes and forms, all that scholarly things. See, I stopped myself. Huh? You see that? But once you have real wisdom, you need to learn the jargon in order to relate to others. Because your wisdom is only yours. It's totally useless to anyone else. So that's why we need to learn to speak the same common language, English, French, love, all those things. Okay? Make sense? Okay. So bear with me. So he says, basically Jason says, the form you see there is actually made up of very tiny, tiny things amalgamated together. Therefore, this form here has no self-nature, therefore it's empty. That's the standard scholarly reasoning. So far, so good. Okay? You should know that. That's what I'm trying to teach you. Okay? You're not enlightened yet, but when you're enlightened, you realize this yourself. Okay? So you have two ways. There are two ways to get there. You get there without knowing all these things, and then you learn the language later, or you learn these things like this typically the Chinese do, and then you brought along and say, oh, that's what it meant. Okay? This is the Chinese style. For us, we take shortcuts, okay? Because I want to retire, okay? I'm impatient, remember? So that's why there are two ways to skin the cat. I mean, God, it looks so brutal. Shame on me. Okay, but you get my point, right? I mean, bear with me, okay? Okay, so don't be shocked by this. So if you realize someone is scholarly and trying to argue with you, this is the reasoning they're going to use with you. So don't let this throw you off, okay? That's all. I want you to hear it, that's all, okay? So that's why when you teach meditation later or Pure Land later and comes a Dharma talk time, they come and I have a question, can you explain emptiness to me? Okay, and whatever you say is, but actually I have a different explanation for that. Form actually is made up of very subtle particles called 微尘 or fine dust motes, okay? And so forth. This is what they all have to go through, this same logic. But they don't know what they're talking about. They only regurgitate. I call it pleasurism. Nothing original about them. Just like you tell your wife, I love you, but it comes from a textbook. It doesn't come from your heart. How could you? You know what I mean? If you're on the receiving end of that love, you'll be so disappointed. Yes? We are authentic. Our love to our wives are authentic. We hope. Yes, you have someone wants to make a comment here. Red.
Thank you, Master. Speaking of which, I took my wife to get a sugarcane drink today. You have to find original ways to say things that you don't want to plagiarize otherwise. And when we were at the sugarcane shop, they said, you know, you can get your sugarcane juice cold pressed, but then you can also have a 50-50 mix with coconut water. And so I thought, oh, that sounds good and refreshing, maybe not so sweet. And so we got the 50-50 mix. So it wasn't entirely sugarcane, it wasn't entirely coconut water, but it was cool and delicious. To me, it didn't matter what kind of motes it was made up of. It just mattered the effect that it had. So I'm clearly not an emperor in this situation, but I feel like it's important just to be able to say, I appreciate the drink and I appreciate the effect it had, and leave it alone at that, not go too much further. This discourse to me is like...
Not useful. Yeah.
No.
Okay. And that's why I said twice already, bear with me. It will become useful later. Okay? I promise. It will become useful. It will become useful to you. I promise you that. If it's not, remind me. Yes, sir. Red.
For me, I think it's a good thing, because sometimes we just get stuck on the words too, on the text, and we just became like slaves of the words. So, and once I had a dream, and it was so beautiful, because I was reading about a little bit about the Avatamsaka Sutra. The master was saying that infinity of bodhisattvas and Buddhas, they reunite on a kind of on a hair tip or something like that. And that night I had a dream that it was like for every molecule, it was an entire universe. So I really not really understood, but I think I have like a little bit deeper that concept. And I believe this is like really important if we want to go further in our understanding of the Buddhism. Thank you, Master.
Very nice. Okay, very good. Okay, so very good. So that's how he answered. Textbook answer. Split it up, smaller particles make up the form. That's all. So don't, that's what the form is. Has no self-nature. So Kumar Jipa wanted to help explain more. So he asked more questions. Okay, so he says to use a dust mote, okay, to break this form, and then at the moment of the dust mote, how is it like? So he says, okay, it should be again here is use ji chen. So to use the extreme dust mote, the extremely tiny dust motes here, okay, and at this level, at the level of this dust mote here, not the moment, at the level. Remember, we have a form here. Actually, it consists at a low level. It consists of a lot of dust motes, that compose it. So at this level, dust motes that compose the form, okay? What is it like? So far, so good? So again, this is also textbook logic as well. Nothing new, okay? Because basically it says, if the form is made up of finer particles, let me use common, ordinary words for you, okay? It's, something, whatever you see is made up of tiny, tiny things, okay? That amalgamated and glued together, whatever, okay? Doesn't matter. But these are the fine things. Then you can go low levels like the atom level, proton and whatever, okay? Electron and so forth. You can go as low as you want, okay? It doesn't matter. But the point is that he says, if this form is empty here, okay? Because you say it's empty because you break it up into dust motes. If you go to dust mote level, it itself it also can be broken down as well. So the same logic, you see that? It has many levels you want, okay? So the point here is that, what about at the dust mote level? You only look at the empty at the form level, but what about the low level? Are they empty too? Textbook reasoning as well. So far, so good? Don't be surprised. Don't be befuddled by this. Okay. So far, so good. Textbook logic. Don't worry. This is how Shakyamuni Buddha explained the Dharma to all of us initially in the sutras. Okay. So on slide 108. The Jessian says, for most monks, okay, they will also break it up to low levels. Not break through, it's break up, okay? Because it's at the highest level is a form. You break them to dust motes. You go to level of dust motes, you break it up as well. That's the logic. So far, so good? It's common sense. Yes, White.
Hi, thank you, Master. You know, the way that you explain is very funny because it reminds me of my chemistry teacher back in college. I believe it's the class of Sankyem. Yeah, he did mention about that everything is made of molecule because he was explaining about the air. So everybody was saying, oh, it doesn't exist. But after he explained, he said, you know, the table is made of molecule, you are made of molecule, the pen that you're using is made of molecule. You just change the property and it becomes something else, basically. So that's a long time ago, but now that you mention it, it reminds me about that.
Okay. So just common sense logic, that's all. Okay. So you can't argue with this. This is fine, okay? But this is what all the scholars, all the people who's going to come and give you a hard time, Nanwen, the Chinese call Nanwen, they ask you hard questions that you cannot answer. That's what they love to do, okay? Oh, you know, you're the great meditation teacher? May I ask you a question? Huh? All right. So far, so good? Okay, so he says, just break it up. Ordinary people, ordinary monks and nuns, just keep on breaking it up. Eventually, it's empty. Same thing. The Buddha in Shakyamuni Buddha in the Shuranga mantra, he says that. You break it up, okay? You can keep on breaking it up. That's all. Big deal. Okay? This is, again, this is from textbook answers, and they're sound. Okay? Don't be alarmed. Okay? To break it up, again, is no breakthrough. Breakthrough has a different meaning. we're not careful in this part here in the translation, you will get so confused, either that or you become a yogi. Okay? Ooh, cheap shot. Okay? So you break it up, okay? Breaking up as well, okay? It's not true. Okay, next. Next one, yes, you need to fix the next one as well. Okay? And so, okay, and then so this young monk here, this monk here says, to me, I don't need to break it up. Okay? To me, this dust mote itself is empty. So there's no point in breaking it up. All right? Again, third stage Arhat wisdom. Now, Ray, did you say that you disagree something somewhere? It's not this area? Give him a microphone.
I am a little confused about this part as well. So when he says he doesn't need to break this one mode further to say that it's empty, does he mean, for instance, that if this one mode is not empty, then the substance, the form that constitutes multitudes of mode is also not empty? Is that the...
No, he says that for me, I don't need to break up further. For me, this dust mode is already empty. That's all he's saying. The other masters, the reason the other monks and nuns continue to break up the dust mode into something more fine, more minute, is because they still don't see the dust mode is empty. Me, I see the dust mode is empty. He's bragging a little bit. Okay, again, he says, he explains it from his perspective. You see that? In textbook, that's all. It doesn't help the king and queens and the emperors. This is his problem. Okay, and this is where Kumarajiva and Jesian are going to be stuck, because it's absolutely a waste of time for these people. They are, you say, I don't understand. This is so profound. Okay, and they probably will cut back on the allowances next month. Yes, Red.
Yes, Master, and I believe, I feel like when he said like ordinary Dharma masters, he's kind of like bragging a little bit more. So
yeah, the people who are not my level of wisdom, basically, because he worked with those people every day. Those are the people who bring him a cup of coffees, make copies, and all those things. Okay, so he says, these people who are speaking Dharma out there, doing lectures out there, they keep on breaking it up until there's nothing to break up. Okay, but for me, this dust mode level is already empty. I don't need to break it up. Okay, that's all. And so it depends on level of wisdom. The ordinary monks and nuns need to break it up because they still see it as not empty yet. I see it's empty already. I don't need to break it up. That's all he's saying. Any problems? Okay, I doubt many people can explain this clearly to you. Okay, if you understand this, then no one will be able to confuse you with this emptiness by using dust motes and so forth. So now you've been trained not to be impressed, not to be tripped by people. Yes, Red.
Thank you, Master. Just to share, because I was exposed to a bit of this this concept when I visited with Daimon Sanim. He spoke about some scientific terms, and for me, it's a little bit easier to understand a scientific term, and it may be relevant when this comes up in the future for others. And Sarah may be able to help explain what a quark is better than I can. I think Sarah was there when we had the conversation, but basically Daimon Sanim broke it down to if you break down a dust mode even further and further and further and further, a quark is a number of subatomic particles carrying a fractional electrical charge. It's basically just a force that is the smallest substance theoretically proven to exist.
Okay.
So just to share.
Okay, very good. Okay, so you can take it whatever components, dust motes to quartz or force or Jedi or whatever turns you on. Okay, don't let throw you off. Doesn't matter. However you want to break it up, break it up. Okay, get divorced, whatever. Whatever works for you, whatever you can relate to. YouTube comment.
Brady says, but if it occupies form, it is not empty.
Okay, I come to that. Okay, Brady, hold on to your head. JMT question.
Hello. So explaining about modes and emptiness like this, how I don't understand. How does this help for you to experience the emptiness again?
Well, then you have to go to the monk. The old monk earlier, when he said, I fasted for 27 days. You know what I mean? Fast for 27 days, you might be able to see it. You have all the answers already, you still don't get it. That's how profound we are. We have, each one of you speaks, and actually you are giving a slice of a perspective of what the solution is. It's beautiful. He said it already. And he says, I fasted for 27 days, and I look, I see emptiness. Everything is empty to me. He experienced it. Whereas Brady says, but I cannot see through it, therefore how can it be empty? And yet, the old monk, when he's so hungry, that has no energy, and he cannot do any yoga, he found it to be empty. Isn't it cool? It's beautiful, right there. You have all the answers already. I just have to amalgamate them, that's all. Yes, Republican.
Master, how is this related to the God particle?
The what particle?
The God particle?
It's again, you break it down until the finest thing there, okay? And you then the smallest particle there, you prove that smallest particle there is also empty. That's all you do. That's the logic they use. The Buddha didn't do it using scientific terms, so he basically used the concept of the motes. All right?
So that's, I guess, the God particle is the smallest piece, so which they cannot break it down any further, so they call it the God particle because they think.
At this level, maybe the smallest they can gauge. However, in the future, it might change. So we Buddhists are not constrained by whatever you can measure. Okay, we have something called dust motes, and you break it down further, call it extremely minute dust motes, and you go, you want me to add another adjective? I'd be glad to add it for you. It makes no difference. Keep on breaking it up. And the scientist says, I can't measure it. You cannot do that. That's illegal. You see that? So the scientists Anyone you scientists? Okay? The scientist is constrained by the instruments. You see that? The Buddha just speaks with his mouth. He opens his mouth. Let me break it down further. You have a particle, God's particle. I say I would have something called minute, extremely fine God particle. And in the future, you will measure it yourself. You don't believe me? I have bad news for you. It's also another something even more refined than that. So what do you want to do? Wait until you measure it? Okay, you will. But for us, whose time is limited, we need to worry about our concubines. Okay, and so forth. So that's all it is. Okay, it's just logic argument. This is the Indians and the Chinese love to do this. Tibetan love to do this, but what matters is what he just talked about. I open my eyes, look at it, empty. This is what the Buddha wants you to experience yourself, not just talk about it. You scholars, regular people talk about it, okay? But the Buddhists, the sages, the people who have the chance to experience it, okay? Some see ghosts, some see, this and that. Some sees, the whole world in one single dust particle and so forth. The whole universe in there. It's true, okay? There's no way the scientists can measure that. No way. But they can see it. The Buddhists can see it. Okay? There's no way you can explain to someone, how come after 27 days of fasting, he sees everything is empty, the mountains are empty, the trees are empty, the birds are empty, everything is empty and so beautiful at the same time. I'm so free. That right there is what you're supposed to experience if you have wisdom. So far, so good? Okay, so that's what I'm getting to. I'm getting at is the fact that when do you want to see this emptiness? Okay, why is it important for you to see emptiness? If you love your wife, do you want to see her as empty? Don't answer that. Okay, you love your daughter, you want to see her as empty? Is it possible? Huh? You're crazy. Right? If you have, so when you want to see it empty, this is what the scholars fail to explain to you. I'm explaining to you so that, and we hope we don't post this online so that people cannot imitate me, okay, and give the other monks and nuns a hard time. Okay, the point here is, why do we want to learn about emptiness? When is that concept useful? Basically, if it's true, it must be useful. Okay? If it's not useful, why would the Buddha bother teaching us about it? Okay? It has to be useful to you, has to be useful to the king, has to be useful to everyone. Agree or disagree? Because if it's not useful to Jane, then Buddhism is not for her. She should go back to Catholicism. Or communism. Whatever works for her. Okay? That's my point. You got that? Why are we talking about this emptiness thing here? Why can't I just enjoy my drink and stop telling me about this emptiness thing? Huh? I love my child. How dare you tell me my child is empty? Huh? Are you Buddhists crazy? Huh? What's the matter with you? Yes, Q&A.
A Di Đà Phật, dạ thưa thầy, bởi vì phàm phu á, ai cũng chấp vào cái có, cho nên bị vướng mắc, bị khổ đau, cho nên Đức Phật chỉ vào cái không để người ta buông cái có ra.
As the ordinary people are very attached to existence, that's why they are suffering. So the Buddha wants to show us the emptiness, so that we can let go and no more suffering.
Okay. Agree or disagree? Okay. My point for us Buddhist teachers is this. If you're happy with your wife, nothing wrong with that. Love her. But if you're not, looking at her as empty is very helpful. You like it? You like? It applies to anything. By the way, not just wives, concubines as well. Okay, anything that you dislike, it bothers you. Look at it, it's empty. Poof. Done. How's that? Find it useful? Right? Including what? Your hunger. You're hungry. And you're so miserable. You want to eat so much. Miss my snacks. Okay? And all you have to do is ask yourself, who's hungry? Yes, Jared. You're hungry. See what I mean? It's useful even to Jared. This is why I love Buddhism, because it is so useful when you most need it. When you don't need Buddhism, you're happy and you're in love and you're rich and you're powerful, you're handsome, and you're so cool. You don't need Buddhism. Stay away from Buddhism. But as soon you have a heartache, as soon as you're depressed, as soon as you lost a job, you feel like killing yourself, as soon as you're so angry at someone, that's when Buddhism becomes very useful, because look at it. Who's angry? You say, I'm angry. Question is, wait. Buddha says, are you Buddhist? Buddha says, you are actually made up of fine dust motes. Okay? And therefore, there's no you who's angry. Does it help or not? Furthermore, you look at her and say, don't talk to me, don't come near me, don't look at me. You hear? Who is this person? Same logic. This person is made up of dust motes. So, who are you talking to? An empty thing. Stop wasting your energy. See that? If you're afflicted, you have any kind of affliction, bring it back to what makes you afflicted. That thing is actually empty. That's when this concept of emptiness is very useful to you. Meanwhile, enjoy your drink. Okay? Until your wife says at 11 o'clock at night, I have a craving for that drink. That's when it becomes a problem. It's not a problem. It's nothing to discuss. Enjoy. That's Mahayana. Does it help? That is exactly should have been taught to the queen and the kings. Not just leave it at you break it up and and it becomes empty anyway, and I know what I'm talking about. You know what you're talking about, but it's totally useless to me. I'm hungry like heck right now. I'm so miserable right now. I'm so depressed right now. Help! What are you talking about? Have you no compassion? You keep on talking about, I know what I'm talking about. What about me? What about my pain, my suffering? Help me. Turn it. So that it becomes empty. It doesn't bother me anymore. So that I don't feel guilty about sending my concubine to the cold palace anymore. You know what I mean? Right? We all have hearts. Men have a big heart, a lot bigger than we like to admit. When we send a woman to a cold palace, we feel, there's a little bit of guilt in there. So the emperor says, help me get rid of this guilt here, so that I can send as many I feel like without any hesitation. Yes, sir, White.
Master, I don't quite see how the dust motes is supposed to help for anger or sleepiness. It doesn't seem to be composed of particles. Like an object is composed of smaller particles, but even myself my body may be composed of small particles, but myself doesn't feel like it's a kind of thing composed of smaller particles.
You're not helping. You're supposed to help, not make it more difficult for me. Go back to work.
Sorry, Master.
The monk has the answer for you. Great.
Quý vị nên thấy một cái bức tranh lớn Đức Phật dạy mình như thế nào. Thì đầu tiên đó, cái bài học, mặc dù Ngài A Nan đó đã thành Phật trong kinh Rách Hoa, là Đức Phật nói Ngài A Nan thành Phật lâu lắm rồi. Nhưng mà bây giờ tới đây cái cõi này để mình đóng kịch với Đức Phật Thích Ca thôi. Thì hiện là một con tăng thường thôi. Thì đi khất thực bị cái bà ma nữ dụ sắp sửa phá giới dâm dục rồi. Đức Phật bắt về dạy rồi thì Ngài A Nan cũng khai ra giống như mình vậy đó. Thấy cái gì cũng thật. Thấy nữ thật, mà nữ đẹp quá, thế này thế nọ. Thì Đức Phật mới dùng Ngài A Nan để dạy mình. Tức là mình thấy, nghe, hiểu biết gì sáu căn của mình đó, mình cho là thật. Cô dịch đi.
This is what the Buddha taught, like in the Shurangama Sutra. Anan was an ancient Buddha, but in this life he came to this world and transformed into a form of a monk, and then it's kind of like they play a story for us in order to teach us. So Anan encountered the lady that she voodoo him, and then he is almost break the precept. And then when the Buddha saw that and then Anand confessed that he see everything is very real, the lady is real. So the Buddha is using this one to teach us.
Thì sau này các thiền sư, các tổ có giải rõ cho mình. là mình thấy, nghe, hiểu, biết 6 căn của mình cho là thật, thì nó sinh ra 6 thức. Thì hôm bữa thầy Vĩnh Hóa có nói cái 6 thức đó nó làm cho mình hồi hộp, mình thích thú, mình đau khổ, nó cột mình đó, 6 cái thức đó. Thấy, nghe, hiểu, biết bằng 6 cái thức mà cho là thật đó. Nó làm cho mình so excited, mình so đau khổ, rồi mình vui mừng, nó cột mình. Mà thật sự mình đó, trong quý vị đọc cái kinh Đại Bi Sám cái trang 49 đó, con đồng với chư Phật một thể, nhiều đời nhiều kiếp. Mà vì một phút con vô minh, con khởi lên, nó cột tới ngày hôm nay nè. Cột cái gì cũng thật đó. Mà cái đó, cái mà dòng với chư Phật là cái gì? Cái Phật tánh của mình nó không thay đổi, nó đời đời kiếp kiếp giống chư Phật không thay đổi. Còn cái thân mình, những cái hiểu biết, những cái mà mình suy nghĩ đây nó thay đổi. Nó vô thường, Nhâm Phật mới nói là Pháp không có tự tướng. Thì ai mà thấy được cái đó thì Ngài Huệ Năng thấy cái đó. Là các Pháp đó, nó không có gì hết đó. Nó, cái Phật tánh mình nó không. Thì Ngài Huệ Minh không tin. Ông thấy sao nào nói tôi nghe coi. Thì Huệ Năng nói mà ông giờ ông nghĩ lại, ông tự bây giờ tôi nói với vị Kiểm đâu, quý vị Kiểm mình gì biết nè. Thì lấy mình làm Ngài Huệ Minh đi. Thì Ngài Huệ Năng mới dạy Ngài Minh là ông lúc mà ông không có nghĩ thiện, ông không có nghĩ ác. Bây giờ ông vẫn đứng đó, ông vẫn biết. Mà cái biết không thiện không ác, cái biết đó là cái Phật tánh của tôi với ông, mà tôi biết cái đó tổ giao y bác cho tôi đó. Rồi Ngài Huệ Năng mới hỏi, Ngài Huệ Minh hỏi còn bí mật nào nữa không? Ngài Huệ Năng bí mật khi mà ông nghiệm được vậy nó ở phía ông á. Lúc mà ông không nghĩ thiện, bây giờ quý vị ngồi nghiệm được coi. Lúc mà mình không nghĩ thiện không ác, mình chưa khởi yêu ghét gì hết đó, mình còn cái biết rất là trường rồi. Cái biết đó là cái biết mà đồng với chư Phật ngàn đời ngàn kiếp. Mà mình khởi là mình thích chứ không thích. Do mình cho các Pháp là thật, mình nói nãy giờ đó, nó cột. Ngài A Nan bị vậy mà cột. Thì cuối cùng Đức Phật mới hỏi các vị Bồ Tát, mấy ông tu làm sao chứng, dạy cho ông A Nan. Thì mỗi ngày dạy một cách, mà riêng Quán Thế Âm dạy cái cách cao nhất. Là tôi nghe tiếng chửi, tiếng ồn, tiếng nhạc, tiếng gì, tôi nghe tôi mỏi mệt quá đi. Tôi nghe cái không đó đó, cái biết không, cái Phật tánh đó đó. Tôi không có nghe cái tiếng ồn hay là tiếng nhạc của thế gian nữa, hay tiếng chửi, tiếng khen nữa. Mà tôi chỉ dùng cái lỗ tai tôi nghe cái đó thôi. Nghe cái mà Huệ Năng nói không thiện không ác á. Thì bỗng một ngày kia 10 phương chúng sanh nghĩ gì tôi nghe hết. 10 phương chúng sanh bao nhiêu giọt mưa tôi đếm được. Tức Ngài nhập ra về chánh không. Thì khi giảng như vậy rồi thì trước khi đó thì ông A Nan hỏi Phật chứ giờ làm sao con trở về cái Phật tánh của con. Thì 10 phương chư Phật mới xuất hiện, mới nói là ông dùng một trong 6 căn của ông trở về cái chân không đó đó. Thì sau đó Đức Phật mới hỏi Ngài Quán Âm với mấy người kia tu thì sao. Thì cái này để mà rốt cuộc là để dạy mình đừng có chấp cái gì thiệt. Tại vì mình chấp là nó thành cái thức chứ không phải là cái tâm nữa. Nó cột mình. Cột đến sanh tử luân hồi cũng nó. Thì bây giờ mình buông nó đi thì nó sẽ chuyển thành trí. Cũng ăn uống như Đức Phật vậy đó, nhưng mà không còn, Đức Phật không dùng cái thức nữa. Dùng cái trí của Phật. Mới gọi Phật là phước trí song toàn đó. Không có dùng trí với mình. Thành ra Đức Phật vẫn còn cái thơ, vẫn còn cái dẫn Ngài A Nan về, ngẩn về dạy Ngài La Hầu La, dẫn cho bà Ma Tha Bà Xà Bà Đề lên, dẫn lên dạy học cho tu xuất gia, chứ đâu phải nói là không là bỏ mấy người đó đâu. Xin hết.
So the patriarch that taught us very clearly that the sixth organ will transform into the sixth conscious, and then Master say that. Hello, Master say like think. Cause all of the emotions, like we are so excited, and then or it caused the suffering or whatever. That's the those attachment are the things that tie us down. So in the Great Compassion, on page 49. We and then the Buddha has the same substance. The Buddha nature is the same. Only this body change. And then the Dharma has no self-nature. And who is Master Huineng, Patriarch understand. And then when Hui Ming asked how to see it, and the sixth patriarch say that at the moment when you don't think about goodness or evil, at that time, that is your self-nature, your true nature. And because the sixth patriarch understand that, so that's why the fifth patriarch conferred the patriarchy to him. And then he asked, is there any more secret? And the patriarch answered, the secret is within you. Now you understand, then the secret stay with you. That is the moment that you don't think about love or hatred, good or evil. And then, so the Buddha, go back to the story of Anand in the Surangama Sutra. After the Buddha brought back Anand, and then he asked other people to teach Anand what Dharma they used to attain enlightenment. And Kuan Yin Bodhisattva shared that she cultivated the hearing, and then she hear all of the sound of the universe, the sound of the music, the sound of people crying, people yell at each other, and then she was so tired of it. But then that's why she turned and hear the sound of the Buddha nature. She used her ear to hear the moment that there is no goodness or no evil. And then suddenly she can hear the sound of the being in the 10 universe. And then that's how you can go back to your self-nature. So the Buddha taught us those things so that we will not be attached to anything.
Oh, I hope you translators into Chinese and Korean have a good time. Because I don't understand the English.
I'm sorry, it's so
I'm trying
to translate.
I'm trying to control my laughter because it's. You see, that's what happens. You don't have the proper translation. You all go berserk. And you practice according, and you translate this. The Koreans will become so more confused, and the Chinese say, "But that's not Mahayana." I'm sorry. I had to make fun of Xinran's translation, but that's the truth. That's what happens when you translate things that you don't understand. Okay, and that's when you say, "I don't understand this," and ignore my translation. Because it's a waste of time. I will mess up your mind. Okay, know your limitations. Okay. Yes, sir. Red.
Thank you, Master. The way I see it is when I start learning about this concept, I always go back to that concept, so it kind of go to that this is not my body. This is just like a compound of different particles. And if I divide like my body into particles, where can I find myself? So then it's when I kind of realize that this is not my nature. This is not my self nature, my Buddha nature. So when I realize that this is not my body, I kind of I'm not identified with the self, with the body anymore. And it's when I can see those anger those hatred thoughts that can arise, because I know that those are not mine. Those are maybe conditions or programming that I have from past experiences or anything like that. So when I see this concept of the emptiness, I kind of realize my true nature, so I can see those emotions or negativity that can arise, and I can take care of that, kind of.
I don't advise that you do that because it's totally off. This is what happened to scholars and bookworms. That's what they do. They say, I believe in the Buddha. The Buddha says, I have no self-nature, therefore. So you arrive at all these conclusions through deduction, through your minds. Okay? Through your reasoning, through your logic. This is not what Buddhism is about. Okay? So that's why it's the wrong way to go about it. And it's quite commonplace for you smart people, for you well-educated and well-read people. This is a mistake many you make. I've talked to so many of you, in particular the young Chinese and the very proud Chinese who says, Mahayana is ours, not yours. This is our heritage. And so they talk to me in the side, there's no self, they quoted all these important Buddhist concepts, no self-nature, this is not real, and so forth. And so what they are indulging in is using the intellect to arrive at a conclusion. That's not Buddhism at all, okay? That's baloney. So most Chinese, by the way, are full of balonies. They think they know because they say, I know, I read it already. It's from our scripture, it's from this sutra, from that sutra, and this is what the patriarch says and says. And so they quoted all these things, and they're absolutely valid, except that it's based on their deduction. Okay? They go from A, implies B, implies C, implies D, and so forth to arrive at the conclusion is empty. Whereas Buddhism, empty is empty. Instantaneously. There's no breaking down. Breaking down is for Hinayana. Us Mahayana is empty. Immediately. No need to argue. There's no need to reason. There's no need for logic. Either you see it empty or not. If you have to rely to it, I have this, I break it down to decimals, I break it down further and further and further, and therefore it's empty. It's called using your logic, using your intellect, then it's not empty. It's baloney for us professionals. Case in point. Can I share with you? Can we just turn off the internet because this is very, very private? So mark this and cut it out, okay? We will not share this on the internet. I will share it with Intertemple because all of you are important to me. We share this thing here with our students, Chan students, so that I don't want, your students to feel left out, okay? Pain! You tell me it's no self, but the pain is real to me. Just like I have a self. I'm arrogant. I'm conceited. I love myself. You cannot tell me I can't love myself. What kind of baloney is that? Buddhism is totally useless to me. Okay, we turn back now, the timestamp. It's very personal to me, okay? I was disappointed. It's a chance to open my eyes, okay, and help me make a leap. Turn me into a believer. Missed opportunity. Answer to you, sir. It's real to me, real to you, the pain, the anguish. I recognize it. That the pain is real to you. The fact we tell you that your body is made up of molecules or dust motes does not provide any relief for your pain. To say that the child you aborted is empty does not help your aborted child. What kind of Buddhism is that? Is that clear? So the answer to him is that you are on the way to one day be able to look at, because of this training here, one day to be able to look at and see through the pain. The pain is an illusion. The depression is but an illusion. So that it no longer bothers you. Now it's real to you, that's why you're here. If it's not real to you, you'll be out there, having a good time, indulging yourself, and making a fortune, making a name for yourself. But you're here because you need to find an answer for that. No money, no love, no recognition, no fame can make you feel any better. And the only way for us is to train you, to bring you to the point where you can see through it, not just intellectualize it like the Chinese love to do. This is my complaint about the Chinese. Intellectual stuff. Break it down, break it down, break it down. That's Hinayana stuff. How can you tell, a mother that the son who's very sick, that your son is empty, let it die? He's empty anyway. What's the point? What's the big deal? If he dies, it's still empty. He's alive, he's still empty. What's the big deal? That Buddhism has no heart whatsoever. Same thing as telling me, you're empty! There's no consideration of how I feel by myself. That's not Mahayana. That's Hinayana. In other words, it's not something that I'm prepared to explain to you in public, so that what this guy called the ordinary monks would say the same thing. It's not about saying, it's about showing you how to empty the pain, empty the depression, empty the anger. You're not there yet, but we're leading you there. You quit too soon, like those losers, disciples of mine. They will never experience it because they don't realize that I've been leading them. I was leading them to overcome their depression, overcome their manic, overcome their pain and suffering. And yet, they quit too soon because what? They doubted me. That's why I said last night, you have doubts. That's a big impediment to your opening your wisdom. If you quit too soon, you never experience it. You never know yourself. Tough luck. We don't have a heart. Because many people before you have been able to overcome those pain and sufferings. You've been able to look at the depression ghost in the eye and said, is that all? Okay? So it's not something that we are willing to describe to you, because it's not meant to be explained or described. It's meant for you to be able to do it yourself. And once you do it, you shut up. You don't go around and say, I understand dust motes. I understand emptiness. Those people who speak like that don't understand dust motes the way we Mahayana people do. That's first. And then eventually, we don't stop there. Eventually, you be trained further and further to the point where you're now able to teach it. Clearly, my master did not do that. So hurry up. I want to retire. At this stage, I can't yet. Does it help? It's very practical. Okay? So, see, that's why, if you talk to the king and, and the king says, send her to the cold palace. She's empty. It's very easy. Let me show you how to do it. Which one don't you like? See? Yes, Red.
Thank you, Master. I appreciate your reassurance earlier in the Dharma talk that I could find something practical. I want to share a scenario that I have as a takeaway for your criticism. So let's say I'm sitting at home and watching a basketball game and getting angry at the basketball game. And to ease my wife's suffering, now you're saying she can look at me and say, look at the big empty idiot getting angry and not be as afflicted. Is that correct?
No, you're still using your intellect. You're still using your reasoning. And plus you're depressed. Okay? No, it's beyond intellect. And this is why there's no way the scholars understand these concepts, these beautiful concepts. It's something that you need to go through the training in order to see it yourself without saying anything, without having to think. This is what happens. This is what Buddhist training is about. So that you don't have to say, there's no self. It's for scholars, for Hinayana people. Show me there's no self. This is what Mahayana is about. Bring me, as they say, to the promised land. Don't just describe it to me. And I follow you. I become Jewish. I become Catholic. You name it. Just bring me the promised land. Stop talking about it. That's what Mahayana is. Okay? Same thing. If those you looking for, believe in the Pure Land Dharma door, you say, I want to go Pure Land. And you don't sit here and recite Buddhism, recite Buddhism. Just bring them to them. Just bring me there. Just stop talking about it. Just get me there. Just find a way to bring me there. That's Mahayana, Pure Land. Understand? Same thing. In Chan here, we know it's empty, so we bring you to that emptiness door for you. You walk through it, you see it's empty. Don't need to think. Don't need to reason. And now once you see that, you see these people keep on talking and debating. You say, you don't know what you're talking about. That's why you keep on talking about it. That's called Buddhist wisdom. Questions or comments? Okay, bye. Did you break the fast, Jared? You're going home? Okay, hang in there, my friend. Hang in there. See you tomorrow, All right, 24 hours. Cool, dude. That's gutsy. Yeah, all right. And the way I tell you a tip, I give you a tip for you to consider how to get there. The road to get there is through faith, through suffering, through hard work. It's not from talking. You can talk all you want, you'll never get there. You can tell people all they want. It takes Moses to lead you to the promised land, not just talk about it. Okay? So Moses is the equivalent of our patriarchs. Our patriarchs are the Moses of the other religions, where they lead you to the promised land. That's what a patriarch is supposed to do. And not talk about it, just do it. It takes a gutsy person like Moses says, I'm Moses. I've seen God. I talk to God. I'm bringing you to the Pure Land. I mean, not the Pure Land. The Promised Land. You see? I like those people. Even though they don't know what they're talking about. But it takes guts to be willing to do that. Okay? And in our lineage, our lineage, your third generation have been there. People in your generation made it to the promised land. Not just talk. Thank you, everyone. Good night.